The New York Islanders may not have had a lot of first-round picks recently, but over their history, they've come up with some real gems in the later rounds of the draft. We're going to talk about that and a lot more coming up on today's bonus episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here, and welcome everybody to this special bonus episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. We have got a lot to discuss on today's show, but first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, we always love to hear from you. Send us an email to lockedonislanders@gmail.com, and if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You can also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long during the offseason. That means hirings, firings, trade rumors, free agency, the draft, so much coming up in the next few weeks. We'll have it all covered for you here on the Locked On Islanders podcast. And it's always good to talk a little Islanders hockey with you, game time or any time. One thing we're still waiting on, and we will be talking about this in the near future, but the fate of the Islanders assistant coaches. We still do not know whether or not John McClain and Doug Huda specifically will be back next year. I would have thought we would have heard something by now, one way or the other. Either they're coming back or they're not coming back. But as usual, Lou Lamoriello not saying anything, did not mention that, the two assistants that predated Patrick Waugh were coming back. Didn't say they weren't, but I anticipate sometime before the draft, which is coming up at the end of this week, that we will hear a little bit more about this. And again, we will keep you covered on that here on the Locked On Islanders podcast. So, as I mentioned, the Islanders, it's been 4 years now since they've actually used a first-round pick in the draft instead of trading it away. Lou Lamoriello still has, as of now, the team's first-round pick, 20th overall, after trading with the Blackhawks to move back from 18 and picking up a bonus pick in the second round. So, we'll see whether or not another trade is made and whether or not Lou uses the pick. But for today, in this bonus episode, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the great late-round picks that the Islanders have made over the course of their history to start us off. And, it's amazing. The draft right now is 7 rounds. It hasn't always been 7 rounds. If you go back to the very earliest days, first draft the Islanders took part in, there were 10 rounds. And, even as many as 20 rounds in 1974. Obviously, there were fewer teams back then. The NHL was also competing with the WHA. But in the 14th round of that 1974 draft, which, by the way, the Islanders got 4 key players, including 2 Hall of Famers. First round, Clark Gillies. Second round, Brian Trottier. 7th round, well, we'll get to that. 7th round, Dave Langevin. But in the 14th round, the Islanders took a chance on Stefan Persson, and boy, oh boy, did he come through. Now, he stayed in Sweden until 1977-78 when he joined the Islanders And boy, he put up a 56-point season in 66 games as a rookie, put up 66 points in 78 games in 78, 79, and really became the Islanders' sort of second offensive defenseman behind Dennis Potvin that really gave the team a lot more depth as far as moving the puck up ice from inside your own zone and from the blue line and on the power play. So he was the 214th overall pick in 1974 in the 14th round by the New York Islanders. That is a pretty incredible find. Now, in their very first draft, we're still at the point where, there aren't the rounds that we're talking about, they don't exist anymore. The 10th round in 1972, the very first draft for the Islanders, well, that yielded them Garry Howatt. Howatt stood only 5'9", 170 pounds, but he never backed down from anyone. Played 8 games for the Islanders in that very first season after spending most of the season in the AHL with the New Haven Nighthawks. Ended up being a long-term Islander, won 2 cups with the Isles before being sent to the Hartford Whalers in 1981-82, but ended up playing 720 NHL games, had a 21-goal season for the Islanders in 75-76, a great steal in the 10th round by the Islanders in their very first draft by Bill Torrey. But he's not the only 10th rounder that the Islanders found. A dozen years later, in 1984, the Islanders drafted David Volek in the 10th round with the 208th overall pick. Volek went on to play for the Islanders from 88-89 all the way through the 93-94 season, and of course had some magic moments for the Isles as well. So that was a great steal in the 10th round, and they had one more in 1989, and that was Vladimir Malakov. Malakov, taken with the 191st overall pick, the defenseman, ended up only being with the Islanders for parts of 3 seasons, 92-93, 93-94, was traded midway through 94-95, ended up winning a Stanley Cup with the Devils and played in 712 career NHL games, had 86 goals, 346 points. Malakov, the Russian, a big part of the Islanders' success over the years. That 1989 draft, though, also you had another, you had another late round pick that the Islanders were able to make a year earlier, and that was Marty McGuinness in the 8th round, 163rd overall. And again, McGuinness, 8th round, spent his time in Boston College before joining the Islanders in 91-92, stayed with the team through the 96-97 season when he was traded at the deadline to the Calgary Flames. But boy, did he ever give the Islanders a couple of productive 20-plus goal seasons, including 25 in 93-94. And he was obviously a part of that 93 playoff run, although he only played in 3 playoff games that year. So even in the 8th round, the Islanders have been able to make some good pickups. Another great 8th round pickup for the Islanders in 1999, Radek Martinek picked up in the 8th round, became a very useful member of the New York Islanders, spent his entire NHL career with the Isles from 2001 all the way through to 2013, 2014, had 25 goals and 110 points in 486 career games for the Islanders, the native of Czechia. Also played in 11 playoff games with the Islanders. A steal for the Isles in the 8th round, 228th overall. The 7th round also has given the Islanders some really good players. And I kind of like some of these guys that were picked up in these late rounds. How about this 143rd overall pick, 7th round defenseman, Rich Pilon, drafted off the roster of the Prince Albert Raiders of the Western League. Never scored a lot of goals, 8 career goals in 631 NHL games, 77 points, but 1,745 penalty minutes, including a career high 291 penalty minutes in 97-98 for the New York Islanders. Rich Pilon, a fan favorite here on the island for everything that he did for his teammates and for the Islanders organization. And another good pickup in the 7th round. How about in 2004 with the 227th overall pick, the Islanders snag Chris Campoli, who goes on to play for the Islanders for parts of 4 seasons, then plays for Ottawa, Chicago, and Montreal. 35 career goals, 146 points, 200 penalty minutes in 440 NHL games, and also added 5 playoff games for the Islanders during the 06-07 season. Again, a reliable kind of a guy who gave the Islanders, some solid play, even though he wasn't selected until the 7th round. We've got some more late round steals that the Islanders have made just to give fans a little hope that maybe even if Lou trades away a first round pick, he could find some gems later on in the draft. Plus, we're going to look back at the Islanders' magic 1975 playoff run when they became only the 2nd team in NHL history to overcome a 3-0 series deficit and win a best-of-7 series. Hey, Monday night, the Edmonton Oilers will try to become the first team to do that in the Stanley Cup Finals. We've got that and a lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer and fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. Check out the odds for Monday's Stanley Cup Final Game 7. Who's going to win? Who's going to score the game-winning goal? Who is going to be the Conn Smythe winner? You can bet on all of these things and a lot more at FanDuel. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So the Islanders have had some more late-round steals, and I love these. I absolutely love these. In the 6th round, back in 1987, the Islanders added Rob DeMaio. Now, DeMaio was only an Islander from 1988-89 through the 91-92 season. He was the 118th overall pick, but he went on to play almost 900 career NHL games. Only scored 106 goals, 277 points, but boy, oh boy, was he a part of some good teams. He was in demand, played for the Islanders, Lightning, Flyers, Bruins, Rangers, Hurricanes, and Stars before closing out his career with the Lightning in 05-06. For a guy drafted in the 6th round to almost play 900 games and be one of the better defensive players or defensive forwards in the league during his tenure certainly speaks well of Rob DeMaio. And again, even though most of his career was not spent with the Islanders, he certainly did give the Islanders, let's just say, some nice, made their draft class look better. Another 6-rounder who succeeded, Bruno Gervais, the 182nd overall pick in 2003. Bruno, just a really solid Islander from 2005, 2006 through 2010, 2011. Later played for Tampa and Philly, but again, was part of the Islanders playoff team in 2007. And again, one of those guys who the fans always kind of took to because of his style of play and his friendliness with the fans. Always a good Islander. Another 6-round gem in 2006, Andrew McDonald. Again, not a superstar by any stretch of the imagination, but taken 160th overall in 2006. Played for the Islanders from 08-09 through 2013-2014, and then finished up his NHL career with the Flyers. Played in almost 600 NHL games, 28 goals, 161 points, and 276 penalty minutes, and played in 4 playoff games for the Isles in 2012, 2013. So again, Andrew McDonald, absolutely a contributor. And how about this as our final sort of 6th-round gem? How about Anders Lee? I know his play is starting to cool down now, but Anders Lee, after being selected 152nd overall in 2009, spent 3 years at Notre Dame and then joined the Islanders late in the 2012-2013 season. He's been the captain now for the last 5-6 years, and he's already played 759 career NHL games. Guy's had a 40-goal year in 2017-2018, 260 career goals, 453 points. Been a big part of the Islanders' success even now, though, as his career starts to wind down. In the 5th round, which is the last round we're going to discuss, we'll go all the way back to 1993. How about goalie Tommy Salo? 5th round pick by the Islanders, again, 118th overall in 93. Joined the team in 94-95 after coming over from Sweden. Led the Utah Grizzlies, who were the Islanders' farm club, to a pair of championships in 95 and 96. Was with the Islanders through the 98-99 season and then played for Edmonton and Colorado before finishing his career again in Sweden. 526 career games and a 2.55 goals against average. Even though he played on some teams that really struggled, Tommy Salo had a solid NHL career. And another 5th-round player who did very well for the Islanders. Well, how about Matt Martin? Matty Martz, 148th overall in 2008, joined the Islanders for the first time for 5 games in 2009, 2010, and has since played 955 games, only 132 of them with a different team. Those 2 seasons he played in Toronto, 81 goals, 176 points, and 1,158 penalty minutes. Here's a guy who's also played in 88 playoff games, a big part of the Islanders' 2 long runs to the conference finals in 2020 and 2021. A heart and soul Islander, now an unrestricted free agent. Will he be back with the Islanders? I don't think he should be. But again, that's going to be up to Lou Lamoriello. But you can see from this list that, even though the Islanders may not have had a lot of first-round picks, in fact, they haven't had one this will be the 5th year if they don't keep this pick, they've still found some late-round gems. And if you look at the Islanders' prospect pool right now, you got Matt Maggio, who was a 5th-round pick, Isaiah George, a 4th-round pick, Eetu Liukas, a 5th-round pick, Henrik Tikkanen, who was a 7th-round pick, William Dufour, a 5th-round pick. So even now, some of the Islanders' more highly regarded prospects, and I know they don't have a lot of highly regarded prospects league-wide, but even then, here is a team that absolutely has gotten some good value in the later rounds. So next week, when we discuss the late round picks, make sure you join us for that, and we'll go over the scouting reports and what these players are like, and we'll be ready for you with all that information coming up next week, obviously, on the Locked On Islanders podcast. We have got a lot more to get to on today's show as the Edmonton Oilers try to become the first team in NHL history to win a Stanley Cup final after being down 3-0 in a best of 7. We're going to remember the Islanders team that did just that in the quarterfinal round back in 1975. We're going to look at that magical playoff run. That and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. So I wanted to remember that 1975 Magic series. And if you're old enough to remember that, I'll try to put it into a little bit of historical context. This was the third year of the Islanders' existence, the second year under head coach Al Arbour. And nobody expected the Islanders to make the playoffs. They had the worst record up until that time in NHL history. In 1972-73, their first season, they won 12 games out of 78. The Capitals would be even worse in 1974-75. But up until that time, the Islanders were struggling. They got better the first year under Arbour, made the playoffs, ended up surprising everybody by beating the Rangers in Game 3 of a best-of-3 preliminary round series at Madison Square Garden, just 11 seconds into overtime. And then they go on to face the Pittsburgh Penguins. And in this series, all the games in this series were pretty close. And the Islanders lost the first two games in Pittsburgh, losing game 1 5-4 in pretty close fashion. JP Parise scored a pair of third-period goals to get the Islanders to within 1, but they couldn't quite close the deal. They fall behind 1-0. They lose game 2, 3-1, and then it heads back to the Nassau Coliseum for game 3. You figure, yeah, that's a must-win. The Islanders pulled it within 1 goal when Jude Drouin scores with 52 seconds left in the third period. But an empty net goal by Lowell McDonald gives the Penguins a 6-4 win and a 3-0 lead in the series. And everybody thought the Islanders were dead. Everybody, that is, except Al Arbour, who basically told his players, if anybody doesn't think we can win this series, leave now. Nobody left. The Islanders playing at the Nassau Coliseum in Game 4 in a must-win situation. Well, they end up winning the game by a score of 3-1. Chico Resch made 27 saves in this game, and the Islanders end up staying alive and sending the series back to Pittsburgh for Game 5. In Game 5, again, Chico Resch, the goalie, he makes 36 saves. In a game, the Islanders were outshot 38-19. That's double the shots. But the Islanders end up winning it 4-2. And Jude Drouin with an empty net goal to clinch the win. Ed Westfall, Billy Harris, and Ralph Stewart, the other goals for the Islanders, but the star of this one was Chico Resch. And all of a sudden, it's 3-2. The momentum belongs to the New York Islanders, and now the series goes back to the Nassau Coliseum for Game 6. Game 6, yeah, the Islanders win this one by a score of 4-1. But again, 2 empty net goals in this one, 31 saves in 32 shots for Chico Resch. And for the Islanders, again, Garry Howatt scores 2 goals, including an empty netter. Ed Westfall with another goal. And the Islanders win it 4-1 to force a Game 7. And all of a sudden, the momentum belongs to the New York Islanders. But Game 7 was back at the Igloo in Pittsburgh. And could the Islanders make history? The first period of this game was fight-filled. Clark Gillies dropping the gloves with Bob Paradise. Dave Lewis of the Islanders dropping the gloves with Battleship Bob Kelly. All of that happening in the first period. Then things kind of calmed down. The game was a goalie duel. Glenn Chico Resch and Garry Innes. Islanders outshot in this one 30-17. It is scoreless until the 14:42 mark of the third period, when 2 of the Islanders veterans on a very young team hook up to score the only goal of the game. Veteran defenseman Bert Marshall gets the assist on a goal by Ed Westfall, the captain, a guy who had already won 2 Stanley Cups with the Boston Bruins. Chico makes it stand up. A 1-0 win for the New York Islanders over the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Islanders complete the comeback after being down 3-0 in the series. And they become only the second team in NHL history and the first team since 1942 to pull off that feat. And then they almost did it again in the semifinal round against the Philadelphia Flyers. They fall behind 3-0, end up winning 3 in a row to force a Game 7 back at the Spectrum in Philadelphia. But the Islanders lose that one. Kate Smith sings God Bless America. Islanders end up losing 4-1, and Eddie Westfall, the captain, brought flowers for Kate Smith to try to break the Kate Smith jinx. The Flyers were almost unbeatable at the Spectrum when she sang God Bless America in person. It didn't work this time, and the Islanders fell in 7. The Flyers went on to win their second straight Stanley Cup. But the Islanders, unbelievably, faced elimination against the Rangers, won the deciding game. We're down 3-0 against the Penguins, won 4 in a row. We're down 3-0 against the Flyers, won 3 in a row. It was a magic playoff run, and it announced the arrival of the New York Islanders as an elite contending team. And from 1975 until, let's say, roughly 1985, the Islanders were one of the best, if not the best teams in the league every year. And of course, in that time period, they won 4 straight Stanley Cups. Hard to believe that the Islanders, it's been now 41 years since the Islanders last won a cup. Hopefully we will get to see another one some point in the near future. All right, that is going to do it for us. We'll be back with our regular show Monday. So make sure you join us for that, as we will continue to look at some players the Islanders could select in the draft. We'll have the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings, and a lot more. So make sure you join us for that. Thanks for joining us. enjoy the rest of your weekend. Keep cool. It's hot out there. And thanks for listening to and watching the Locked On Islanders podcast. And of course, let's go Islanders.